Okay, now we're going to go over skip, limit, and sort inside Pymongo. And you've already seen skip, limit, and sort inside the Mongo shell. Now, if you recall, the way skip, limit, and sort work, and this is true in most databases, is that the sort happens first. And after that, the skip, and after that, the limit. So sort first, then skip, then limit. And it really doesn't matter what order you give them in, that's the way it works. Let's go back to our program and check out how it works in practice here. So I'm going back to the schools collection now, schools database and the scores collection, and I've done a find here. The query is the null document, and you can see I've sorted, and I've skipped, and I've limited. And you can see this is the syntax for doing these. The skip is easy; it's just you put an integer inside the parentheses. The limit is easy. You can the sort's a little more complicated. In this case, it's sorting by student ID and then by pymongo.ascending. This is a constant inside the driver that lets you indicate that it's an ascending sort. So now if we did that, then let's see what document we get. So let's go here and I'll clear the screen, and you can see that I get the one with student ID 1. Student ID 1. Now, if I go back into this program and I change it up a bit, so this time I'm going to take this and I'm going to do the skip over here, and then I'm going to do the limit, and then finally I'm going to do the sort. And I already have the sort written out in this next line, so let me just bring it over. Now, I'm going to save that. Now don't pay any attention to this line, it's commented out right now. I'm going to show you something about that next. And you'll notice here I'm printing out every doc in the cursor. I took out all that stuff about limiting it to 10 documents because now I'm using limits in the query itself. So this is the same query, but this time we're deliberately doing the skip first, then the limit, then the sort. And let's see what happens when we run this. So before, you can see we got document 1 out of it. I'm sorry, student ID 1. And now I run it, and once again I get student ID 1. Wow, that's kind of weird. It seems almost strange, right? I mean, you can see very clearly that I'm running the skip and the limit before I run the sort. But I told you that the sorts always happen before the skips, and the skips always before the limit. So how does this work? Seems a little weird. And of course, the secret is that the database doesn't really run the query until you start iterating through the cursor. And that's actually also true in the Mongo shell. So in order to allow you to cascade these in any order, the query is postponed until you actually start iterating through the results. And then the first time you start iterating through the results, that is when the query is truly run to get the first result. Okay, but the second thing I wanted to show you is that the syntax for sorting is a little different than it is in the Mongo shell. So if you look here in the second line, which I'm now going to uncomment out, if I wanted to do a complex sort or a sort on more than one key with a primary and secondary key to the sort, if I want to do that, then instead of putting a dictionary in here or a JSON document with multiple items, as I would in the Mongo shell, right? Instead, I have to use these Python tuples. So these are pairs, and this is an array. So student ID, pymongo.ascending, comma, score, pymongo.descending. And we haven't talked about those tuples at all in Python. It's not a structure we went over. But this actually is a divergence from the way the Mongo shell works. So you compare this syntax to, for instance, the one that we were seeing in the Mongo shell before. If you recall, you would sort these in Mongo by use school. You would do db.scores.find.sort, and then you would use a single JSON document here. You could do student ID, positive, and then ascending sort, and then score, let's say, negative, indicating a descending sort. So that's, you see here we just have this, we have a document here with where the order matters, right? And then we can run that and we'll get, well, I'll limit it to 2 documents. And you can see here that we get 2 documents out sorted, first by student ID and then by score descending. So, and that's a very different syntax than we're seeing inside Python. And I just want to point that out, that is a divergence from the Mongo shell in terms of the way you express the sort. Okay, so that was a lot to take in. Let's do a quiz. So let's say that we had the following documents in a collection, and you can see I've got 4 documents here with ID 0, 2, 3, and 4 with the values 10, 5, 7, and 20. If I perform the following query, all right, cursor equals things dot find dot skip 3 limit 1 sort on value descending, this value, and then we sort it descending, which of these documents would the database return? Select only one. It's a multiple choice question.